Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which I am very worried about the state of my country because if I don't vote the right way come Tuesday, everything's going to fall apart, I guess. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to Thursday. Apologies for the slight delay in going live. I had someone show up at my door all of a sudden that I had to attend to very briefly. Yes, we are back once again in the wonderful world of off-brand TED Talks. Let's see. Now, apologies first off. I had advertised briefly on Twitter that Ranting Monkey would be joining me tonight for a duo, but Monkey was not feeling up to it and needed to rest, so he is taking a rest. So maybe he and I will do a TEDx together again in the future. But at least as of right now, it is planned that I'll be on his show this coming Tuesday for the election night special. We'll watch the results come in and get all goofy over politics, I guess. What else did I want to say? Oh, also, let me know in the chat as we start here how I sound, because once again, I'm paranoid about the quality of my broadcast voice through my microphone. I am really thinking about trying to get a better microphone setup, but if I sound okay to you now, then we'll just go with that. But elsewise, until we get there, who's joining me for this exploration into politics and specifically democracy? Keeverdam, hello. Mike R, hello. Jaeger Pony, hello. Advocatus Diaboli, hello. Noah Asensio, hello. Matt Barnes, hello. Beachy Cogito, hello. Who else is here? As I'm scrolling down a bit, Zeke Weiss, hello. The Magister, hello. And who else is here? Jamie Melquist, hello. Chicago Mike, hello. Non-Vitae Rex, hello. Mike Savage, Blarg. Ryan R, hello. Enigma 500, hello. Tyler F, hello. Joshua Montgomery, hello. Spittlebuggies, hello. Flair Fritz, hello. It's a Llama, hello. Robert Pincus, hello. Anybody else? The Original Shroom, hello. Blakester, hello. Captain Frost, hello. Hello. And yes, hopefully, Scribelight, you said it correctly again, at least 3 times in a row. Beachy Cogito. Practice makes better. Mr. Tickletrunk, hello. Dangerous Spaces, hello. Wait, did we just start? Well, I mean, just as in the last 3 minutes, yes. So you're right on time. Liesel7, hello. Attack Alpaca, hello. All right, so what is on the docket for today? Well, as mentioned, this coming Tuesday is Election Day in the United States. It's sort of like a mini Super Bowl for those of us who are news junkies or political hounds or however many other canine references you want to make. And in preparation for that, I found a TEDx that claims to tell us how we're going to save democracy. Because as you may or may not know, whether you live in the States or not, we have been told over and over again that if we do not vote the correct way in this country, democracy is at risk. Democracy's been at risk ever since the last election, I guess, apparently. Now, in my mind, if someone's coming out looking for votes and they're telling you that if you don't vote the right way, democracy is at risk, if their first go-to is doomsday scenario, end of the world, everything's going to go terrible, you're not really coming out strong, because if you don't have any successes to brag about in your, the time since you were elected, and your first go-to is if you vote for the other guy, everything's going to fall apart, especially when everything's already falling apart and you're the one in charge, kind of a tough sell. It really wouldn't matter who was making that argument to me. I'd have a hard time believing it. But that's all to say, what does our speaker have to say about it? Well, the title is Why We Need to Find Common Ground to Save Democracy. Now, see, I cannot help it. It's sort of like a spelling bee. A spelling bee where they ask you to spell a word and you ask them for the origin of the word, you try to break it down in your head, component parts. Because I would think that in a democracy, the common ground is democracy? You know, I mean, democracy kind of implies an adversarial process. You're voting for one thing or another, one person or another. So what is the common ground? Well, hopefully a particular set of values. Democracy, freedom of speech, so on, being some of them. But I guess we'll find out. Thank you, Chicago Mike. If you're supposed to sound like a combination of Kermit and Marvin the Martian, then you sound fine. Just kidding, you sound good. Hello, Kermit the Frog here. Oh, where is my Q-35 space modulator? That was my best Kermit and or Marvin the Martian off the cuff. I can do Barney the Purple Dinosaur and or Bullwinkle and or what was the other thing I could do? I could do somebody else. I forget what it was. I can do really bad Goofy. I don't know. Anyway, all that being said is preamble, and hopefully everybody's in the room now, as it were. Let's get started. This one clocks into just over 15 minutes, so your standard TEDx talk. Tonight's bingo card is B. B as in Boeing or Boeing? How about Boeing? That's the airline company, right? Sure. Okay, B, second letter of the alphabet. There you go. Links to the bingo cards are in the description. Get your bingo cards ready. This might be completely dry, as they say. I don't know. I guess we'll find out together. But all that being said, start off with a few seconds for a sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then we will begin.
I believe in you.
Oh, he believes in me. I believe I can fly. I believe in you too. As in, you exist. I can't say much more beyond that. I'm glad you believe in me. Even though you can't see me and you have no idea of my existence. But either way, you guys hear that okay? B as in believe. Yes, advocatus. B as in believe. Let's see. Oh, we have a prediction. We have a prediction. Okay. Dangerous Space's prediction. Will common ground or conformity be what he actually means? Well, that's a good question. Good question. All right. So sounds good, says Tony Gift. Sounds good, says Chicago Mike. And with that, let's go.
I believe in you.
Okay. Mr.
Regardless
Rogers?
of the difference of your politics,
Oh,
religion,
okay.
sexuality,
Uh-huh.
I believe in you.
Okay, well, that's nice.
When's the last time you heard someone say that they believe in you just as you are?
This sounds a lot like a Mr. Rogers episode, doesn't it? I mean, I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but Ebony Williams, hello. Simon Willikins, hello. Roger Reynolds, hello. Darth Mando, hello. Darth Mando says, I hear nothing. Uh-oh, what happened? What happened? See, now you guys make me paranoid, because we've had these issues before. Did my sound drop out? Yes or no? Please let me know, because I can't tell. Or is Darth Mando just messing with me? And if he is, well, poo on you. Okay, good. Stop doing that. Stop messing with me. Jeez. All right, anyway, so yeah, Mr. Rogers, what now?
When was the last time someone said to you what mattered most was not how much you were alike, but how much you're different?
I honestly can't say I've ever had that specific phrase leveled at me. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that you and I are quite dissimilar.
Okay.
I'm a Black American.
Oh, well, I don't know. How much value do you put into skin color? I guess would be my first question.
The obvious, yes?
Well, I mean, you could be a Black Canadian. Here's the thing. I can't tell your point of origin simply on the basis of your voice. You could be American, you could be Canadian, you could be someone who just does a really good American accent. Those would be assumptions I'd be making if I were to say, oh, you're a Black American. I couldn't know for sure. But see, that's kind of the thing. Without any evidence, I am kind of just guessing. But okay, you're a Black American.
I'm a Protestant preacher.
Oh, okay. See, I have no idea what your religion is. And it really means absolutely nothing to me.
I'm an economically responsible Democrat.
Okay, and here's the thing. Still, none of the things he has listed tells me anything about him as a person. None of those things are definitive about the kind of person he is, about his beliefs. And I mean, I guess if he says he's a Protestant, I guess I can make certain assumptions about what he might believe in. But then Christianity is so fractured in different places, and how much people are really into it or not, I don't know. So, let's see. Okay, when's he going to get to something, dare I say, substantive? Right there.
And I'm the father of an amazing son.
And
I'm also dyslexic. Which gives me a little grace and gets me accommodations.
Okay, great. Yeah, I will say, at least on those aspects, you are very, very different from me in descriptors. So?
You and I might also disagree on some pretty fundamental stuff.
Sure.
I believe that God exists. I'm just not so sure that he is a he.
Wow. Pondering the imponderables.
I'm pro-abortion.
You're pro-abortion. You know, I rarely hear it said that way. I'm not, see, I'm not going to get into that argument too much deeper than that, but you're pro-abortion. Okay, I rarely have I actually heard it phrased in that particular way. Pro-choice is usually what you say, because being pro-abortion is kind of gross.
I served on the Obama administration's, the Obama campaign for both of his campaigns.
In what way? Were you just knocking on doors somewhere, or did you, like, how, to what extent? I know I might not get an answer, I'm just curious.
But I'm not so sure that Barack Obama was the best thing that ever happened to America.
Few presidents are. Real quick, going to the bingo card, he did mention his amazing son. Now, as brief as an anecdote as that is, it is a childhood and or family anecdote, so I'm going to circle that one real quick. And he's... He leaned a little bit into the idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I'm going to wait and see if he says it specifically. So, circling that one. Just a real quick refresher on what we're listening for here. Anecdote that probably never happened. Not yet, as far as I can tell. Self-vilification or wretchedness? No. And self-deprecation doesn't necessarily count. Systemic institutional, weightless example, word salad, leaves out vital context, collectivizes own demographic. Yeah, I mean, well, I'll wait. He's listed off demographic elements. He hasn't collectivized yet. We'll see if he says something else. White supremacy, a list. Yeah, that was a list. You know what? He went down the different descriptors. That counts as a list. Privilege, not yet. Sales pitch for product or service. No. Plays victim, not yet. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. No. Wage gap, patriarchy, feminism, mind reading assumes motives. We'll see. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, marginalization, argumentative non sequitur, contradicts own point or argument, benevolent condescension, and lastly, microaggressions or unconscious bias. So far we have on the board a list, free space, and childhood or family anecdote. And we also have a sex bot in the chat. So, goodbye, sex bot. Ta-da! Or did it? Did we? Is there more than one? Anyway. Okay, we'll keep an eye on that one, huh? Let's see. I don't want to zap the wrong person here. Let me make sure I get that out of the way. Okay. We'll keep an eye on that. Thank you, guys. All right. Anyway, back to the show.
I don't believe in trickle-down economics. I say tomato, not tomato. But however different we are, I am certain that if we can have one simple conversation.
Ooh, is it a courageous conversation, Glenn Singleton?
That we could find something in common.
Well, you said you're an American. Of course, you're talking to an audience in London, so maybe that's not quite the same thing. But sure, we could probably find something in common. Maybe. Thank you, Snubbirth. New Age Protestant is practically a non-committal agnostic. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, it's probably true. It's like I believe in God. I'm not sure he's a male. Like, okay. If that honestly, if that's your big stumbling point in your belief, I think you're doing okay. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, yes, we could find something in common. You're right, something. We're humans. We believe in free speech. Maybe the fundamentals of the Bill of Rights. How about that? How about we just have a common ground of believing in those things, mostly, if not in totality.
And that thing might be tiny. It might be small.
Uh-huh.
But I believe it's enough for us to begin something remarkable.
Oh, okay. Like?
I believe that you and I together
yes.
could build something important.
Okay.
That together we can achieve something important.
Yes.
One thing that you and I have in common, if you live here in the United Kingdom, is that we're lucky enough to live in democracies.
Yeah. Technically.
But democracy itself is being threatened every day.
Oh.
With authoritarian leaders gaining growth around the world.
You want to name any in particular? You're just talking about, those nations that have never had democracy or like ruled by dictators and things like that?
In the United States, my country, we recently experienced an attempted coup.
No, we did not.
And now our democracy is at risk.
No, it is not.
Of everything that we thought was true about America.
No.
One of the great threats to democracy is polarization.
Oh, polarization. Okay. Well, how about this one? How about taking the actions of a very small group of people and turning it into a representative notion that spans an entire political aisle? How about that? How about painting an entire political demographic, with the broadest brush possible as to intentions, thoughts, motivations, and so on, and making them all enemies of democracy? How about that? You ever think about that one, maybe? Maybe you want to put into sort of like perspective what you're doing, what you're accusing, and so on. Thank you again, Snubber. You need a Trump space on your cards. A Trump card? A Trump space? Truth be told, Trump specifically doesn't come up that often on the TEDx's. He came up quite a bit in the ones that were published just after 2016 or leading up to the 2016 election, but not very often. But of course, I mean, if that trend changes and we start hearing about him with everyone or something, maybe. But thank you, Snubber. Okay, well, anyway, polarization. Yes, polarization's bad, conceivably, unless you're, trying to divide and conquer, which, of course, no one on any side of the aisle in this country would ever attempt to do.
There used to be a time where we were able and had the ability to agree to disagree.
Okay, that was happening long before this. I don't know if you paid attention to social media specifically, or the idea of cancel culture in the last, 6 years, 7 years or so, specifically. I mean, I've witnessed that, and it was long before the quote-unquote attempted coup. So it's not a sudden thing, and it was happening before 2016. In fact, it was part and parcel with certain people's ideas of how you campaign for your candidate. So
that no longer exists now. We used to be able to really disagree on some major stuff, but we had a sense of finding a way to come up with some shared purposes and then working through the complicated stuff?
I think you might be looking at the past through rose-colored glasses. I don't know that that's ever been exactly true. I mean, certainly cooler heads have prevailed in our politics in the past. But of course, you have to then ask, like, well, is someone being an advocate for their constituents if they're always capitulating or not being that passionate about the particular things they're for or against? It's a balancing act. It's sort of like people like, idolizing the 50s as though that was the perfect era or something when it was not. I don't know if our speaker's not suffering from a little bit of some kind of derangement syndrome of one kind or another right now. But, I mean, here's the thing, though. Ideally, or I should say idealistically speaking, I agree with him. We should be able to agree to disagree. We should have civil discourse. That should come back into common practice and not feel like it is a dead art. I agree with him on that point, at least.
But today, we are increasingly going into our bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
We are increasingly finding news feeds that only say what we want and going on to social media outlets and finding friends who only agree with us. Because we all want to be right, right?
Yes, and this is true on both sides of the equation. So are you going to bring up anything from the other side of the equation to show that you are at least approaching this whole conversation in a balanced and fair way? Are you going to make any concessions that don't vilify only one side of the aisle? I guess that's my question as we go forward.
But I believe it's time to do something different.
Okay.
That it's time to actually engage with the people with opposing views.
Oh, okay.
And instead of starting with fear and disdain, we have to do something else.
You mean aside from categorizing either what happened that day or anybody either even tangentially associated with it politically as being part of a coup? Something like that, you mean?
Because what has happened to us is that we've started to move further and further away from the precious idea of common ground.
Okay.
Where we could solve our problems together.
Compromise our problems together. Not necessarily solve. The best compromise is where everybody leaves the table not completely satisfied. But, okay. Again, in spirit, I agree with our speaker's intent here. I'm just waiting for the method.
The problem is,
yes,
democracy can only function effectively when
Uh-huh.
people are able to come together.
To vote. If the voting system is secure and right and fair and equitable, yes. But that's just... Okay, what are you talking about?
When we split into tribes, begin to despise each other, progress becomes paralyzed.
You ever hear about the benefits of competition? Do you understand how this nation was founded in the first place? How it has proceeded throughout history before the quote-unquote coup? We have always been a nation of opposing ideas and opposing solutions to the same problems. That's how we proceeded forward. It hasn't been fun. It's been methodical and slow and very often frustrating. But you're not going to get everybody to agree on everything. You should be pushing compromise, right? Common ground, yes, but compromise towards what common ground? Again, he's not wrong. Polarization, separation, people vilifying somebody else, bigotry, intolerance. It is rampant today in a way that I think is probably more visible because of social media. I'm not sure if it's any greater than it was in the past, but certainly the visibility of it has a knock-on effect to those who might be sitting on the fence or might otherwise be reasonable, being, dogpiled. So he's probably right in that sense. But I'm still waiting for the big golden answer here. Thank you, A2P, for the number one Dog Cat Fox. Oh, Dog Cat Fox.
Wowie, wow, wow.
Oh, that's a Weibo Dog Cat Fox. Thank you, A2P. You're great. So there you go. Mashishu, hello. If I didn't say hello earlier. Okay.
You saw this happen in the debate around Brexit here in the UK.
Mm.
When democracy looks like it's not working, some people will start to wonder whether it's worth it or not.
Is that how Brexit operated? I thought it was basically a ballot put up, or an initiative put up almost as a joke, just to say that it had been done, have it defeated so the question wouldn't come up anymore and they could move on. But then it actually passed. And then they didn't know what to do. Democracy worked correctly because the people who voted for it and it won. And then everybody else had to scramble to catch up with democracy. Am I off base? Sorry, referendum. Yes, thank you. You're ridiculous. Referendum, that's what it was. I said ballot initiative, whatever. Got all my terms mixed up with local stuff. Okay.
We've seen this happen in the United States.
Okay, Brexit was democracy in action. What are you talking about? Am I mishearing him on this?
When Donald Trump was running for president in 2016,
when Hillary Clinton was running for president in 2016?
I was in Cleveland, Ohio, on my way to a repast after a funeral of a mentor and a congressman.
Okay. Well, 2016 is a broad space of time. Okay, and?
I was in an Uber with an African-American Uber driver who told me he was going to vote for Donald Trump. I missed the entire wake. I spent an extra $100 tipping him because I wanted to know why.
Why was that important to you?
I wanted to understand why he was committed. And I asked questions. I listened. I silently disagreed.
Yeah.
But I listened. He said to me that I believe that Donald Trump can give me a job. I had a job. I was a construction worker. I was able to take care of my family. And maybe Donald Trump will build the Trump Tower in Cleveland.
Okay, so his motivations were more economic and for job opportunities. Okay.
There was a sense of hope in something different that might matter.
Well, what was the thrust, if I might ask, that inspired you to support Obama 2 times in a row? What was that word you just used? Hope? Wasn't that his tagline throughout Obama's campaigns? So Donald Trump gave this guy hope. There's your common ground. Or am I missing something?
When I got out of the car, I said, Donald Trump is going to be president of the United States. If a black man on the east side of Cleveland has decided that he's going to vote for Donald Trump, that Donald Trump sees him, what had we done wrong?
Well, that's a very, very, very good question. Maybe it's because the Democrats have been using the African-American people, demographic in our country as a cudgel and a reliable shield all this time without actually doing anything to improve the lives of said people. And maybe this guy got tired of it. Maybe you were just blinding yourself to it. I mean, what was your doubts again about Obama after the fact? Okay, but anyway, you said the very common ground. You said it. Hope. Whether you agree with it or not, Trump gave this guy hope for a better future. What more do you need to know? What's the mystery? Why were you in support of Hillary Clinton? That'd be my question in the reverse. Like, why were you ecstatic about Hillary Clinton? What about Hillary Clinton convinced you to give her your vote?
I wonder, what if we had listened to him and other people like him? Would democracy be safer now?
Okay, well, barring our speaker saying something exceedingly revelatory in the next little bit, he keeps equating democracy with Democrats. If only democracy were safe. If this guy hadn't voted for Trump, would democracy be safer now? I hate to tell you this, buddy. I really do. Well, not really. But Donald Trump's election was an example of democracy in action. As much as you may hate it, as much as everybody lost their minds over it, they couldn't accept the fact that they had a worse sales pitch overall than Donald Trump did. So, say, them's the breaks. Why do you keep equating a deterioration of democracy with voting Republican? And every time that you do that, you are simply adding to the polarization that you say you want to avoid. You're vilifying an entire swath of the electorate as being undemocratic, thereby being basically unpatriotic, un-American. Just for simply existing, for simply having an opinion different than your own. Now, maybe this is all a setup for him to confess to that. I guess we'll find out.
I firmly believe that if democracy is going to be saved, that we need to truly be able to listen and to understand each other.
What evidence do you have, or what evidence do you believe you possess, that democracy is in danger? Give me an example. Unless you're going to say that voting for Donald, because if you recall, Donald Trump's election happened long before January 6th, okay? So if you were in belief that democracy was in danger at that time, what evidence do you have? Just January? Is that it? Is that it? Okay, what about all of the Antifa Black Lives Matter riots in the summer previous to January 6th? What about all that? Does any of that count? Does that give you any sense of worry about democracy or civilization or the civil discourse of things? Any of that stuff in multiple cities around the country? Destruction, deaths, on and on and on, as compared to one event at the Capitol that did nothing to stop the process of democracy. Here's the thing. If you want to play the peacekeeper, if you want to play the fence mender, you have to acknowledge both sides of the equation. If you're only going to vilify one, you're only adding to the problem, not helping it.
And that's how we can get to common ground. So you asked me how you do that? I'm so glad you asked. Well, usually when someone starts expressing an opinion that's in the direct opposite of what we believe, we tend to respond a few ways. We try to convert them by shouting louder because, the louder we are, they can hear us. We display outrage, or we become condescending. Or we totally disengage.
You know what? If I'm wrong, I will retract it. But so far, I don't have any evidence that he's going to come back to it. So I'm going to circle contradict's own point or argument. He is just adding on to the polarization by not giving fair voice to either side of the equation, And also, democracy is in danger because this guy voted for Trump. Are you kidding me? I mean, good gravy.
And completely retreat into our bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a much better way to react.
Okay, what's that?
First,
yes,
by learning how to talk to someone that you disagree with.
Okay.
And most importantly,
Mhm.
how to listen to them
Yes.
in a way that enables us to develop empathy.
Do you have empathy for the guy who voted for Trump if you believe that his vote inherently damaged democracy? I mean, aren't you de facto vilifying that man for having an opinion different than yours? Or am I missing something? That guy voting for Trump, he's effectively at fault for January 6th? I mean, that's how this chain of logic has gone so far. But okay, keep going.
Empathy allows us to cut through the toxic tribalism that exists in us so that we can see another human being. The thing that often causes us to shout or retreat is fear. Now, that's ironic because the best way to dispel fear is to engage with the other.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Okay. I wonder, given that our speaker isn't here and this took place beforehand, I wonder what our speaker would say about telling everybody that democracy is in danger if you don't vote the right way. I mean, if you're promoting fear, yeah, that's kind of a last ditch effort for the desperate when you're trying to convince somebody of something, trying to reason with them. So why are you telling us that democracy is in danger again? What evidence do you have that democracy, the concept, the process, is in danger? You still haven't offered anything up yet, and you are fear-mongering.
A few years ago, I was doing a site visit in North Philadelphia with some
Okay.
colleagues who worked for a historic preservation charity.
Okay.
When it was time to leave North Philadelphia, we were desperately trying to find a taxi out of this quite challenging neighborhood, right?
Okay.
Picture this.
All right.
A very posh white woman with a Birkin handbag and a stunning diamond ring, which honestly had me nervous.
What? Why?
And an unassuming middle-aged white man. As we crossed the intersection, there were these rather disheveled two fellow black guys.
Oh, okay. You thought she was going to be robbed because you were in a particular neighborhood and around particular. Okay. So that's why you felt there was danger? Okay.
As we walked by them, I uttered, "What's up?" They nodded. Then we moved on. Then one of them yelled, "Yo!" I could see my colleague shaking. She was shaking. And I turned around and I saw one putting his hand in his bag. And he pulled something out and he said, "You want to buy a mixtape?" We gradually made our way back to them, and can I tell you, we had the most fantastic 20-minute conversation.
Oh, wow. Amazing. You weren't nervous at all in a part of town that you already categorized as kind of shady. Okay. All right. But your white colleagues were shaking in their boots. Okay.
It resulted in these guys and their band being invited to be performers at their charity the following year.
Okay.
During that conversation, all of that fear just began to melt away.
Oh, you mean in a shady part of town where even you had concerns over the safety of your colleague because of where you were, after your colleagues and you were given evidence that the danger that might have been there did not exist, you changed your minds. But you made a reasonable, even in your own mind, assessment of the situation beforehand until you're given evidence to the contrary. This is your story, right? You know that you are the one telling this story from your own POV, correct? Okay.
So I want you to put your fear to one side.
Then why are you saying democracy is in danger? Your entire talk so far has been predicated on the notion that if we do not do what you say or follow your guidance, democracy is under threat. If you just want to talk about, reinvigorating civil discourse, agreeing to disagree and so on, okay, fine. I don't have a problem with that. Why do you overshroud it with the threat to democracy if you're not trying to promote fear, if you're not putting a ticking clock on the whole thing?
And start practicing empathy.
It didn't have nothing to do with empathy. It had to do with evidence. It had to do with evidence. You didn't know what he was going to pull out of his bag until he pulled it out. You had the concern about the safety of your colleague before she did. I can empathize all day, but if I'm given signals that there might be a problem until I'm given evidence that there isn't, why shouldn't I be on guard? Wait. Okay, weightless example, circle in that one. No, didn't work.
And that does take practice. It's not easy. Empathy is like a muscle. You have to build it up gradually and keep flexing and flexing it regularly. To build it up, the first thing that you have to do right now is to stop avoiding difficult conversations.
The way to build up empathy is to stop avoiding difficult conversations. How about having an exchange of ideas, right? And testing those ideas against someone else in a respectful manner. Empathy, I mean, I can empathize with somebody and still disagree with them, right? Okay. Is empathy necessary for me to have a civil conversation? Not necessarily. What does empathy have to do with the scenario you just laid out for us? Wait. If I don't want to have a conversation with someone about something, I don't have to. That doesn't make me unempathetic. It might make me uninterested. Okay, you're going to have to do better. You need to do better. You need a better example. You're kind of already lost me, but you're losing me more right now.
Instead of walking away from them, do like we did in North Philadelphia and start walking towards them.
Okay, well, how about this? How about not opening a conversation about politics by categorizing anyone who does not agree with you as contributing to the death of democracy? Because here's the thing, you have to be at least an honest player in the conversation if you're the one opening it up. If the first thing you do is vilify or denigrate the other person before they've opened their mouth, you're probably not going to get a receptive audience or have a fairly civil conversation. Just a tip. Thank you, Keldrig. I don't know, Scribe. I have it on good authority that evidence is white colonial thinking. I know, right? Asking for receipts. I mean, receipts are usually on white paper, so I don't know. Like I say, I get where this guy is coming from, right? Sentimentally speaking. So I'm in agreement with him in spirit, but he's doing a very poor job of arguing it, the way that he's framing everything. So, yeah. Sorry, Advocatus, don't always have time to have a 2-hour chat with the guy who wants to sell me a mixtape. Well, yeah, there's that too, yeah. I think it was 20 minutes. I don't think it was 2 hours, but either way. Okay.
It takes courage. But I'm asking you to be brave.
Then approach the conversation in good faith. Okay? If you really want to have a straightforward conversation with somebody, approach it in good faith. You know, it's kind of hit or miss for me on Twitter, for example. I have had, and I've posted on my feed, many conversations/debates I've had with people where I've asked serious questions. I've really tried to understand somebody's position on something, even if I don't agree with it, right, on its face, and give it a shot. The one that comes to mind is what led to a TEDx not too long ago. You may remember this. There was someone online who posted a Twitter thing that said, indigenous knowledge is science, indigenous knowledge is science, about 7 times on the tweet. And so I asked them, in all seriousness, give me an example. And at first, they thought I was mocking them or being, condescending or something. I was like, no, seriously, what do you consider as indigenous knowledge that is not considered science? Like, give me an example of what you're talking about. And it didn't really lead anywhere because their first example was crop rotation. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure crop rotation is an accepted part of agricultural science at this stage of the game. I don't think that's some kind of like derided myth or anything. So, gave it a chance, but it still had the question in my mind. So I went looking for someone who would make that argument in an intellectual and thoughtful way. Unfortunately, I decided for that source as being a TEDx. But I gave it a shot, right? You can have conversations with people who start off adversarial if you treat them with respect. That's the difference, not necessarily empathy. It's difficult to empathize with someone, especially online, but at least if you have the respect of responding in a civil way. That goes a long way. It can. Right? I can respect your opinion without necessarily having to accept it. I could conceivably empathize with your opinion if I find some connection with it, but first and foremost, let's respect. So, is categorizing anyone who disagrees with you as contributing to a threat to democracy a sign of respect or not?
How do you empathize with someone who expresses views that you find offensive?
Offense is always taken, never given. So that's a you problem?
The answer is simple.
Okay.
It's love.
No, it's respect. RESPECT. Find out what it means to me.
I've never in my life met a person that I could not love.
Really? Well, I'm glad you've never met, I don't know, Charles Manson. You've never met a person you couldn't love? Again, I think you might want to tone it down there a bit. Get down to respect as your common denominator. Unless your definition of love is just, far more distributive than mine.
However distasteful their words may be, their language, their actions, I can always find the humanity in another.
Sure. Like, for example, when you said you were pro-abortion, that took me aback a minute. I think I know what you meant, giving you the benefit of the doubt, right? But I don't know you to love you, but I respect you, right? I think you mean well. For all my criticisms of your argumentation so far, I kind of get what you're saying. I think you're going about it in the wrong way, to be at least as convincing as I would hope you would be, if this is really what you want to have happen. But love you? I'm very, very cagey with that word. That word is a very loaded word. I use it sparingly.
Make it your goal to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Really listen.
Yes.
And try to understand why they think the way that they do.
That's exactly what I'm doing here. That's why I pause and I ponder and I try to digest. So, like, I get where you're coming from, but I'm also listening to what you're saying. And, thank you, Frank Hubbard the Fourth. Sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me. Yes. Laughin'. Rowan and Martin's Laughin' is what I think of every time I hear that phrase. And how do I know that? I'm not that old, but it's all thanks to, like, Nick at Night and Comedy Central before it was Comedy Central. Does anybody here know the name of Comedy Central before it was Comedy Central? I bet somebody here does. Thank you, Chicago Mike. Mind reading. You might be. Yeah, you know what? You are right. You are correct, sir. Let me circle that one. Mind reading assumes motives. Right there, bottom middle. Comedy Central, the name of that network before it changed its name was just Ha. H-A exclamation point. Ha. And then it turned into Comedy Central later on. So there you go. That's how I am old enough to know that one.
And just as when you go to the gym, don't start with the heavy stuff. Stretch. First, stretch.
Like?
And then awaken that muscle and start with the easy stuff and work your way up.
Such as?
And once you build up to mutual trust and respect, you might be able to touch on some of the tough things that you disagree on.
Okay, well, first off, I'm glad you mentioned respect. I think that was the first time you've done so. Trust, but the other thing too is that for the most part, I don't go out seeking to have debates about important issues with people around me. You know, I mean, it happens. I drop into those things sometimes on Twitter. I might make a comment here or there or otherwise. It's not usually an invitation for a conversation with other people, but I don't necessarily shy away from it depending on what happens. But you're going to have to give me some kind of example, some kind of plan for like, how is this going to save democracy? I mean, you set the stakes. You set the stakes at the beginning that democracy needs to be saved. Okay, how is this going to save democracy? Thank you, Keeverdam. Ha! And the Comedy Channel merged into Comedy Central. Also, benevolent condescension. Oh, is that what it was? Oh. Well, then I must be wearing orthopedic shoes because I stand corrected. Thank you, Keeverdam. I was under a misapprehension. So there was a thing called Ha, and there was a thing called the Comedy Channel. And then they merged. All right. Well, in part, Comedy Central was previously Ha, but I was wrong. Thank you, Keeverdam. Chicago Mike, the MST3K channel. Yeah, oh man. Oh, MST3K, the marathons. The one I always loved the best, just because it always made me laugh, it was the guys watching a Hercules movie, and throughout the beginning by the Sirs down on Planet, they kept just saying, sandstorm, sandstorm. And the bots and Joel had what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And they just kept threatening sandstorm. And so they're watching the movie. They finally get to this part in the movie where there's a sandstorm scene that goes on for 20 minutes with almost no dialogue. And you're just sitting there going, stop, please stop. Those were the days. Okay, anyway, what were we saying again?
And then ask simply, why do you feel that way? Use your empathy skills to really listen to the answers, and it might surprise you.
Oh, it's surprised me every single time I've done a TEDx. I have extended my empathy, my logic, my reason, my critical thinking skills, my experience, as much as I can, though I never claim perfection, or to know everything. But yeah, no, I listen. And like I say, it's rare. It is rare that I come away from one of these things actively despising the speaker or something. I think one of the rare ones was 2-3 weeks back now with the lady talking about gender affirming surgery. Yeah, she kind of convinced me not to like her too much. But in most cases, I can see where the person's coming from, or at least I can see that what they're doing or what they mean to do is relatively benign or misguided or something, but not, they're not a terrible person or something. Just like with our speaker here, I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he has the best of intentions. We know what road is paved with those, but his sales pitch is just a little off compared to what his message is. That's the most I can say.
I have a friend that's a white supremacist. We've been friends since we were 7.
Oh, white supremacy. Okay. circling white supremacy. You've been friends with a white supremacist since you were 7. Is he like a non-practicing white supremacist or a lapsed white supremacist?
I certainly don't agree with his views.
Why are you friends? Does he consider you a friend? And if so, how?
I actually detest them.
Okay.
But I've spent enough time with him to know why he holds them.
Okay.
And it's not for all of the reasons that I originally assumed.
Okay.
It's not because of hate.
It's not because of hate. I think any racial supremacist ideology ultimately has to denigrate every other race. So,
It's because of fear.
Those two things aren't mutually exclusive, right?
He's frightened that he and his children will be erased and they will lose power. While I think he's utterly wrong, I understand why he holds those views. Some people worry that their opinion might be eroded.
Wait. Why do you understand why he holds those views? Or is that what's following here? Sorry, I'll only back up a little bit. Try that again.
I understand why he holds those views.
Okay.
Some people worry that their opinion might be eroded if they engage with people who don't think like them.
Well, you're the one saying that democracy is under threat for people to disagree with you, so you're making those people effectively enemies of the state by the way that they think. So, again...
I can't promise you that won't happen. But would it be so terrible to have your view shifted a little?
It depends on what we're talking about. And now you're making... Wait. So you want to come from an avenue of empathy, of understanding, and so on, but you still want to assume a position of righteous authority. I mean, maybe nothing as extreme as white supremacy, but how far are you willing to go in your... Would it be so bad if your world changed just a little bit to the way that I think it should be? You see, if he was promoting the idea of a universal sense of allowing for the possibility that you could be wrong, right? And I'm not talking about any side of the aisle or anything, just a general sense that you know what you believe what you believe, and when it comes down to certain things, whether it's policy positions, philosophies on things, etc., that you stand your ground, but you always reserve a little space to allow for the possibility that you could be wrong, or that you could have your mind changed, or that you could just simply learn something new. That, in my mind, is a reasonable position to take, regardless of where you fall on any ideological spectrum. But that's not what I'm hearing here.
I'm almost certain that things that you truly, deeply believe in, deep down in your soul, they won't be erased because you listen to someone.
No. Well, okay, is that what he thinks is going to happen? If he listens to other people, he's going to be erased? Is that it? I mean, we're still on your white supremacist friend, right?
They won't be erased.
Right.
And don't worry by allowing someone to air their opinions that you're validating them.
Right.
You're not.
Sure. Okay. I'll take a step back. I agree with him. This goes back to all of those insane riots and protests over a speaker coming to a college campus who happened to be right of center or something, as though simply their presence and them speaking was going to poison everyone's minds or whatever. Yeah. I am definitely against deplatforming on that basis, or taking seriously anybody who freaks out over the possibility of someone saying something within earshot that they might not agree with. as though that were in and of itself a crime. So, okay, I'm with you there.
Understanding where someone comes from
Uh-huh.
is not the same as agreeing with them.
You're correct.
And if what they say hurts and it triggers anger,
then that's your problem.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Oh, unlike everything prior to this moment? I hate that phrase. I'm not innocent of using it reflexively in different places and other times. I still hate that phrase because then it puts a big question mark. Like, okay, now you're going to be honest? Okay, what are you going to be honest with me about?
It's a risk.
It's not a risk unless you make it one. Notice that your anger, your offense, is your problem. It is generated by you. So, tough nuts, I don't know.
But I think it's a risk worth taking.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good.
Tell yourself,
Yes.
it's not about how I feel,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about why they feel that way.
Well, if you're just trying to understand, then yeah, don't get too caught up in it. If you can help it. I mean, it depends on what we're talking about. It was really difficult to listen to the surgeon lady a couple of weeks ago without getting emotional, thinking about the implications of what she was saying, imagining the effects it would have and has had on real life children and adults. You know, it's kind of hard to separate because that's where my empathy is. I can't help but think ahead into what the implications are of what someone's saying, or extrapolate from what they're saying the implications of what it might have for other people. Sure. But ultimately, that was my problem to rein in and still do a show as best as I could.
But you have my permission to walk away from it if it's too much. If it's too much, it's okay. But do me a favor, please don't just give up.
Okay. All right. Sentiment understood. Accepted, yes.
Try again on another day.
To what end? I mean, again, how is this going to save democracy? I get it. Okay. Listen. Empathize. Give respect. I get it. But where does the political process come into this?
Why do I think it's worth being upset?
Because it increases understanding and will save democracy?
And taking the risks? Because we can't rely on our elected officials to overcome polarization and to create unity.
You're right. They represent polarization on a political, ideological basis. They don't want unity. They want conflict so they can say they are fighting against it. He's right. But okay, I've had a disconnect now that I can't recover from on what he's talking about. Is that word salad? It might be. Let's let him go.
I believe that when you give people a chance to be seen, to be heard, and to be understood, that big things are possible.
That is probably the most ambiguous statement I've heard today, but yes, it is better to let people have an open marketplace to vent their ideas, good, bad, or otherwise, than to shun them, turn them into pariahs immediately, and push that kind of rhetoric down underground. That's why freedom of speech is so important. That's why not deplatforming people for saying something that offends you is so important. Better these things come out into the light to be assessed by the public for general consumption and either accepted or rejected as they go. So,
And that unity becomes possible.
No, there's not. You're sounding like Joe Biden, the great unifier. Okay, you're not going to have unity except on the fundamentals. You can find common ground, but you're always going to have opposition. Okay? The question is it respectful opposition? Or is it immediate vilification of someone over a disagreement? Right? Is it compromise or is it bigotry? That's really the only two ways you've got. And remember, bigotry is hating someone for what they think, for their opinions. Gets conflated with racism too often. Okay. So if you're against bigotry, great. You know, not to say that bigotry is necessarily bad, depending on what the person's saying. Like, oh, I don't know, let's do irreversible surgery on minors or something. You know, that I might not like that person based on their ideas and philosophy. But in general terms, you're not completely just painting with a wide brush everybody just because they happen to disagree with you on something.
I'm not so naive to expect that this is going to be some sort of immediate societal change. But we have to have courage to build something that we can't see. Rome wasn't built in a day, but every day a brick was laid to build Rome.
Rome. Okay. You're correct. We have to start somewhere. And I like to think, and this is me putting myself up on a pedestal, I like to think that at least in some way, shape, or form, this series is an attempt at that strategy, at listening to someone, not necessarily accepting what they're saying, but listening, trying to understand, trying to get an idea of where they're coming from, even if I don't agree with it. But the floor is always open for me to either have my mind changed, learn something new, you know, or at least, again, entertain the possibility that I could be wrong on something. So far, the sentiments expressed here aren't offensive, quote unquote, in any way particular. But the sales pitch has been uneven at best.
The British are excellent at queuing, right? You might even say it's something that unites. Well, if you could just show kindness and understanding to the person in front of you and the person behind you, that's an important way to start.
This is why I think that everybody, if I was king of the world, everybody would have to work in retail for at least 6 months out of their young lives, so they understand what it's like on that side of the counter, what it's like to be in a service position, so that they become better customers and increase their empathy towards people they may interact with in the future who are in service positions. I think a whole lot of good would be done if everybody at one point in their life had to be in a subservient position in a retail capacity. I think, you know, and just 6 months, 6 months, just saying, you know, just something that'll leave an indelible impression. Hopefully, that's my idea. That's my idea for saving kindness. There you go. There's my TEDx talk. Let's save kindness through retail.
If everyone does that, change will eventually come, and let's call it trickle along empathy.
Okay, that is a new buzzword, buzz phrase. It's a cheesy one, but it counts. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. Trickle along empathy. Okay.
So let's stop waiting for someone else to lead us to common ground. Go out there and you be the one. You know why you? Because I believe in you. Thank you.
Now, see, he would have done better. He would have done better to take examples like that. Common denominators, right? Shared experiences that we all end up having to have, regardless of what political stripe we come from or philosophical stripe we come from. Standing in line, right? Waiting at the gas station, retail, things like that, right? The kind of material that Seinfeld would use to try to find common ground with his audience. And what is it about toothpaste? You know, it's that kind of thing. You know, leave the toilet seat down, that kind of thing. You know, you want to increase empathy, you want to increase this, well, consider heaven forfend the golden rule. Do unto others, etc. Okay, well, anyway, there you go. There's our pitch from our speaker on how to, quote unquote, save democracy. I'm not convinced he gave us really anything to dig our teeth into, so to speak, that hasn't been said before, of course. I agree with the sentiment. Listening instead of immediately vilifying, trying to understand and not rejecting out of hand. Yes, I am all for that. That is the foundation of this very show that I do. So anyway, let's take a look at the bingo card. Let me zoom in on that a little bit. That good? That's good. All right, so where are we at on ye old bingo card as of right now? Okay, so I'm going to go over the bingo card one more time by myself. And then if you've got arguments for squares to be circled, please hold on to them. And we'll get to you momentarily. Anecdote that probably never happened. The only real significant anecdote he gave, well, I guess he gave two. The one about the mixtape selling guys and him having a white supremacist friend. The mixtape one, I mean, his story did not make the point that I think he thought it did, but I don't have any reason to think he was lying, that it didn't happen. His interpretation of events, but I can believe that it happened. That's the thing. So I can't circle that one, but I'm open to arguments. Self-vilification or wretchedness. No, he didn't do any of that. He didn't mention like he's the problem or this, that, or anything. So I don't think so. Systemic institutional. He did talk about our political system, politicians, etc. So I might be stretching just a smidge here, but that was ultimately kind of the point he was going for, or what he was attempting to address. So that being the case, how about I hit this button?
Bingo.
What? Of course!
First bingo. Maybe not the last. Let's find out. Word salad. That last part, that really had me going around in circles a little bit. Not in WTF territory, but still, yeah, I'm gonna circle that one. Because he lost me there. He really lost me. The politicians part. Everything. I was just like, what? I missed something. Yeah. Leaves out vital context. Oh, vital context. I'm sure there was something in there. I want to be able to say an example, but I'm blanking right now because he said a lot of things. But he was talking, and this is one of the problems when he's talking mostly in high-minded ideals about stuff, sort of philosophically speaking and such. It's hard for me to say that he left out vital context. Well, I guess ultimately, how is this supposed to save democracy? Right? Just getting. I mean, yeah. Okay, we'll take it back. He didn't give us any evidence that democracy was under threat if we don't do what he says. I mean, is discourse pretty lousy these days? Yes. Is democracy itself under threat? I need something more than what he gave us. Collectivize his own demographic. He listed off a lot of things that would count as demographics. Did he collectivize? He used them as examples of difference between himself and his audience. I don't know that he ever said something like, as a Protestant or as a Black American or something like that. I don't think so. If you guys know different, let me know as we proceed. Privilege. Privilege. I don't think he ever said it. I'm not sure he ever implied it per se. But if he did, let me know. Sales pitch for product or service. No, he didn't bring up, he didn't name his church. He didn't bring up a book. He wasn't saying, hire me to increase your empathy or something. So, plays victim. Did he play the victim? That's a tough one too, because he was playing the peacemaker throughout the entire thing. I don't know that he was ever playing the victim, because even in those situations where he was conflicting with someone like his white supremacist friend or something. He didn't really claim victim points. He talked about getting angry or being offended, but he also downplayed that with, you just have to work through it. So that's a tough one. Wage gap. You ever talk about economics? Well, he did talk about it. Yeah, he talked about the guy getting his job back, getting a better job. It's a little slight, but I'll take it because it's not a bingo square. So good enough for me right now. Patriarchy, feminism. He never really brought up battle of the sexes in any particular way. So I don't think those count. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, it's not in the usual spirit of the terms. He was arguing for inclusion and diversity of thought and including other people and so on. So in the most sort of benign sense, he was using the spirit of the terms, if not the actual literal speaking of them. Shigone. Shigon? Shigone. Scribe, can you please add portable bag holders to your store? Your avatar looks exactly like one right now. I added a link in chat. I'd buy it. Portable bag holders. My avatar looks like a bag holder. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. What is it? You mean like a bag? Like just like a canvas bag kind of tote? Bag holders. Okay, you don't have to super chat me again. I appreciate it very much. But if you could clarify what you mean in a secondary chat, just to make sure I wasn't completely off base there. What is a bag holder? If you're just talking about like if they make tote bags, I would think they do. If they do, okay, I can put one together. Sure. Let me know. You don't have to, again, let's see. It's a metal ring. It can open up for ladies. Okay, now I'm getting all sorts of weird images in my head at this point. Arms. Got them arms. I remain confused. I'm sorry. Portable bag holders are wheelchairs. What? And it's pronounced Qigong. Qigong. Okay, so I've got Beachy Cogito and I've got Qigong. Dom O'Leary, you said it. I thought it. Okay, portable bag holder. It's like a key ring for bags. Okay, okay. If this is a thing that is common in places, I can't say that offhand I've ever heard of it. If someone has them, okay, I will look. If I see something that seems to resemble that on the Teespring site, I will see what I can do. Portable bag holders. Okay. All right. Well, let's continue. Marginalization. Yes, his white supremacist friend feared effectively that happening to him and or his family. Legitimate or not, that was in there. Okay, moving on. Argumentative non sequitur. Ooh. You know, I already circled that for weightless example, though. Yeah, because it wasn't a non sequitur. I mean, he was trying to the whole mixtape guy thing. He was trying to use it as an example of empathy and everything else, and I was like, no, it's about evidence, not empathy in that case. And his own thoughts about the situation matched what he was then, I guess, criticizing his colleagues for thinking, which made no sense. But argumentative non sequitur, did he bring up something that he never brought up again? Or never had a payoff? Oh, man. I'm blanking. He might have. I might need your guys' help. Benevolent condescension. See, was he condescending? See, I didn't get the sense that he was being condescending, even in a benevolent fashion. I mean, like I said, throughout the entire thing, I never got a sense he was doing anything other than meaning well. He was just making a very poor pitch for it. So it is a bit more subjective, but I never got a benevolent condescension vibe. I'm willing to be, convinced otherwise. And lastly, microaggression and conscious bias. Yes, he brought up at least the spirit of unconscious bias in what he was alluding to his white colleagues' reactions in the mixed tape example. Okay, so that's the squares. The squares as we have them right now. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, please put them in the chat now, and be sure to tag me in your comments so I can see it more clearly. Wild-eyed wander. A bag holder is to be able to carry a lot more bags than the fingers alone can rest. I've never used them, but my sister used it in the punning. Okay, a bag. Okay. Tell you what. Qigong. I will look and see if I can find something like that can be manufactured by the site that I use. I will look. If it's there, I will see about cooking something up. If it's not, I promise you I will have tried, at least. My best. Let's see. Scribe Light. Dangerous spaces. I was in a neighborhood was pretty condescending to that area. Oh, but is it a benevolent condescension? Or he was just showing his own bias at that point. I don't know if that's benevolent condescension, but I might need either an expansion on that or someone to second that because I'm not quite sure. I didn't mean to start all. No, it's okay. See, this is the kind of stuff I missed from Lords of the Night, where like someone would say something and become a meme for like 20 minutes, and this is just my ignorance. This is like, again, I'm learning something new, right? So no need to apologize. No need to apologize. You have added to the character of the show, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much, and also thank you for your donation. That's very generous as well. Appreciate it. So I will do my best to see if I can find something like that. Oh, Pacific Northwest. Okay, I was like, what's the Assassin the Great, condescending against the Uber driver. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. If only that guy had voted a different way, then maybe democracy would be safer now. Yeah. Okay. You know what? You convinced me. You convinced me because I have empathy. See, that's how you convince me. Because I have empathy. Otherwise, I'd say no.
Oh, won't somebody please?
Bingo. BINGO.
Okay.
Right?
Our second bingo. All right. More suggestions? Any other arguments? Yvonne Solomon, for collectivized own demographic. He couldn't fathom why the black Uber driver would vote for Trump. Oh, and why he wasn't. Oh, yes. You're right. You are absolutely right. Very good. Thank you, Yvonne. That is a good one. That fits right in. Thank you so much. Okay, got that one. Appreciate it. Thank you again, Chigon. This is back payment for all the enjoyment you've brought us. I probably owe you more. Oh my God. Oh, okay. All right. Now you're going to make me get all misty-eyed. Thank you, Chigon. That's very generous of you. Thank you so much. And I will look to see if I can find something like what you've mentioned, or if they have something similar. I'll do my best. And I will advertise it as soon as I can. So thank you so much. Or at least maybe a tote bag. If I can't find a bag holder, maybe a tote bag. Let's see what I can do. Let's see. And again, guys, if I missed any of your arguments or anything, I'm not ignoring you. Just please post it again. Septus Wolf. This might be easy. Okay. Portable, fashionable, different. Okay, I will have to look that up. I'm not sure. Thank you, Cephas. Let's see. I'm opening up the window, another tab right now. Oh, okay. I can see why you think that my avatar right now looks like one. Okay, I see what you mean. Okay, with the porthole thing around it. Yeah, okay. It also looks decidedly like something else, but I'm not going to say that on the air. This is a family show, so I'll just let that sit. That's fine. But I will see what I can do if they have it. Assassin the Gray. Anecdote that never happened. Was the white supremacist friend who was a white supremacist just because he said the friend was? What do you... Sorry, let me try that again. Was the white supremacist friend who is a white supremacist just because he said the friend was... Oh, you think that he was just making up the fact he's a white supremacist? I didn't understand the white supremacist thing if he's friends with the guy. How does that make any sense? I mean, maybe he's there's another term for that, right? Like a white, or just like a racial purist or something. Not necessarily that you denigrate, but I forget. There's a term for it, I think. Anyway, not sure about that because anecdote that probably never happened. I need more evidence. Right? I'm not quite sure. Payar D Bayar. I'm always late. Sounds like a personal problem. Oh, here's one. Advocast Diablo. His entire talk was a non sequitur. What did white people being afraid of black teens have to do with saving democracy? Ooh. Does the entire talk become a non sequitur? Does saving democracy and... You know what? The very basis of the talk never had a payoff, right? Because he brought up January 6th, but then he never came back around to how any of what he's talking about would prevent. You know what, Advocatus, I agree. In a very long-form way, the very premise of the talk turned out to be a non sequitur by the end of the talk. So, that being the case.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
Hey, third bingo. All right. Any other arguments for squares to be circled, guys? There might still be room left for one or more squares, but we might have all the bingos we're going to get because patriarchy and feminism aren't going anywhere as far as I can tell. Self-vilification isn't going anywhere. Sales pitch isn't. Anecdote that probably never happened. Again, nothing that he gave us was out and out too good to be true or was so self-serving as to be unbelievable. So, Dangerous Space is not a square, but is the speaker assuming his friend is a white supremacist because he doesn't like his said friend's opinions? White supremacist definition. Well, that's what confused me. I mean, if he was an actual white supremacist, why would he have a friend that isn't white? Why would he open up about his problems, his beliefs, his fears, etc. to someone who isn't white? I mean, he would conceivably denigrate that person. Yeah, his definition of what a white supremacist is might be a bit off, but I don't have any way of knowing exactly because he didn't give us enough information. So, let's see. Frank Hubbard IV. I very much doubt his white colleague was visibly shaking. Well, there's a difference between an interpretation of something and the whole anecdote being false. And taken in its fullness, I didn't think that the whole story about the mixtape guys was false in and of itself. I can only imagine whether he was exaggerating things, but then of course he also justified if they were shaking by his own categorization of the situation as dangerous based on the jewelry the lady was wearing outwardly. So, yeah. And let's see. Hey, circle the anecdote square, scribe. I'm not convinced yet that anything that he said was inherently false. I'm not, I got the sense throughout the thing the guy was very well-meaning and very sincere, and outright lying didn't seem within the bounds of the person presented to me there. And nothing about any of those anecdotes was so self-serving that it felt manufactured. That's the thing. And like I said, his basically torpedoing his own interpretation of the situation actually gave credence to it, in that he didn't make himself look all that great when he was trying to criticize his white colleagues, because he was the one that called it a hood and also was the one fearful about the lady's ring. So that'd be my counterpoint. That'd be my counterpoint. But Bridget. This is way easier than he thinks. Politics don't make friends. Common interests do. Build a shared culture, and you may change minds. Yeah. And his last example really, at its core, kind of spoke to that. Everybody has to wait in line from time to time. Be respectful of the person in front of you, behind you, right? Common experience, common ground, shared interest, shared irritation, right? I mean, how much common ground do you find with somebody who you end up being in the same irritating situation with? Right? Like somebody ahead of you in line is taking up too much time, or being or like paying with a check or something. You ever been to the grocery store and somebody ahead of you, probably some old boomer like me, is like paying a check, or they're searching for their receipt or something, or their coupon, and you look over at the person behind you and you give them one of those rolling eye glances, and you both kind of share a moment of, mutual irritation over something. Yeah, that's where you find common ground. Over things that you hate together or things that you love. And like this, see, all the people that are here, look about you, chat, look at all the people, all the names you recognize, all the personalities that we've learned about one another over the years now. We're all brought together by curiosity and a little bit of sarcastic, sardonic cynicism over TEDx. And I'm glad in some small way that I've brought you all together to learn about the world and each other and maybe yourselves. Because isn't that what this is all about? Yes. Also portable bag carriers. But hey, that's just the show. Anyway, everyone, I'm going to call it there. That's 3 bingos. I know. Some of you are going to be sorting me over the anecdote one, but I'm standing by my guns. I didn't hear anything that sounded like an out-and-out fabrication, so there you go. Now, if you'd like to hear more from me, by any chance, as I am a unifier and not a divider, you can find me here Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, or the Sunday stream, where I'll talk about a thing. Don't know what it is yet, and I'll probably decide on Saturday. Now, in addition to that, though, on Tuesday, Election Day, evening time, not sure yet, probably somewhere around, 5 p.m. Pacific, maybe 8 p.m. Eastern time, somewhere around there, I will be on the Ranting Monkeys channel as we watch the results come in from coast to coast and hang out and make fun and joke and see how the Young Turks might explode or something, or who knows? We'll find out together. There's that. Yvonne Solomon plays victim. He thinks democracy is under threat from people who think differently than him. Oh, Yvonne. Twice tonight. You get yourself a square. All right. Last minute, but I'll take it. I won't deny a decent argument right at the end. So thank you, Yvonne. And thank you to everybody for coming out tonight. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved, so welcoming, so empathetic, so respectful that you have very little to do unless you're a sex bot or something. Everybody who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. And I forgot to mention, but I did make sure to put it up at the top of the chat box, the GoFundMe links to our friend Shady Grin, Angry Illinoisian, and his kitten. If you do have a couple of extra bucks to spare, they, their friends, and families could certainly use the help if you're able. So with that, everybody, thank you again for joining me. I hope you have a good rest of your Thursday. Hope you have a good rest of your week and the weekend ahead of you. I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.